Scooby-Doo and the Weird Water Park. Scooby-Doo and the rest of the Mystery Inc. gang were on their way across the desert in a mystery machine. It was a hot day and everyone was really thirsty. They were all glad when they had spied a town in the distance. Hooray, they cheered when they spotted a roadside refreshment stand. Like, I could really go for a cold soda, Shaggy cried. Wee-roo, Scooby agreed. He nodded and stuck his tongue out. Bleh. As Fred pulled the mystery machine off the highway, the gang noticed some sad-looking kids sitting by the stand. It looked like the owner was mad at them. You kids are driving me crazy. You're always underfoot, Mr. Reed, the stand owner, growled at the kids. Find some other places to go. Like, why don't you kids beat the heat at that groovy water park over there? Fred asked. One boy looked up sadly and said, We can't. That's my dad's place, and he had to shut it down. The three kids were named Matt, Amanda, and Ronnie. They told Shaggy and the others that Matt's dad had to sell the park, even though it had been in the family business for years. But why? Asked Daphne. You'd think it'd be a very popular spot in a hot place like this. It's closed because it's haunted, Amanda said in a quiet voice. Haunted by spooky water monsters. Haunted, Shaggy said with a... haunted? Shaggy said with a gulp. Rookie water rushers, Scooby whimpered. That's right, water monsters, Mr. Reed grumbled. They're evil spirits that sometimes possess watery places. I think he's the bad guy. The water monsters are half man and half fish, Ronnie told the gang, his eyes wide. They're like white ghosts. They're white like ghosts, and they have sharp teeth. Ghosts are bad for business, Mr. Reed complained. Don't worry, everyone. We'll get to the bottom of this, Fred said, leading the gang into the park. If there's one thing I love, it's a good mystery. Zoinks! Like, if there's one thing I don't love, it's ghosts, said Shaggy. Ree-reer, Scooby agreed. Suddenly, Scooby's nose sniffed wildly and his tail stuck straight up into the air like an antenna. Poing! Shaggy was sniffing too. Like somebody's having a barbecue inside the park, he said excitedly. Rah-rah-rah-rah-goo! Scooby exclaimed. You guys can look for the barbecue that way, Fred told them. The girls and I will explore over there. Scooby and Shaggy knew they were getting close to delicious-smelling barbecue, but they couldn't find it. They checked everywhere. Shaggy yanked open a door, then turned white as a ghost. Without warning, a scary water creature jumped up at them. Grrr! Growled as it reached for them. Zoinks! Let's get out of here, Scoob! Shaggy shouted. Like, I think I just lost my appetite for barbecue, especially if we're on the menu. Shaggy and Scooby raced into the nearby tunnel. It was the water control center for the park, and it came to a dead end. Grrr! The creature was gaining on them. Like, no way to go but up, Scoob, Shaggy said. Come on. Shaggy climbed up the ladder in a flash, but Scooby wasn't getting anywhere. He was climbing the spokes of a valve wheel, not the ladder. The wheel turned round and round. Woo! Scooby wailed. Meanwhile, Fred, Daphne, and Velma were checking out the park from above. Let's see if we can spot those evil monsters, Fred said. Wait, I think I hear something rumbling, Daphne told them, and it's coming this way. Suddenly, a huge surge of water came rushing down the slide. Whoosh! The water caught the kids and carried them at full speed. Oh no! Scooby-Doo had actually turned on all the water park rides. Actually, looks kind of fun. Soon the gang found themselves being swept down a twisting tube. Jinkies! I like water parks as much as anyone, Velma shouted, but I wish I'd had time to put on my bathing suit first. Down, down, down they sped. Through the slide, around crazy turns and dizzying spirals. Actually, it was kind of fun. Then, just as suddenly as it began, the ride ended. The kids found themselves washed into a beautiful lagoon. Splash. Daphne was not happy. Just look at my hair, she complained. Never mind your hair. Where are my glasses? Velma said. Oh, here they are. As Velma slid on her specs, she spotted the gang's first clue. There was a strange-looking truck parked in the lagoon. Jeepers, said Daphne. What's all the equipment in the back of that van? It looks like it's for scientific testing. Fred nodded. It is. I've seen this kind of equipment before. It's for locating and testing underground water. But before they could investigate further, the kids got an unpleasant surprise. A creature from the deep jumped out from behind a truck, growled, and lunged at them. At the same time, Shaggy and Scooby were tiptoeing quietly through a dark corridor under the park. It looks like we've lost that growling ghoulie, Scoob, Shaggy whispered. Like, I think we're safe. Oh boy, Scooby said happily. But they quickly changed their minds. A giant octopus with big ugly eyes and sharp pointy teeth appeared in front of them. I didn't know octopus had teeth. It grabbed at them with its long slimy tentacles. Shaggy and Scooby fled in the other direction into a strange room. They clanged the door shut behind them. Right away, the guys knew they were in trouble. Water was spraying from the walls, filling the entire chamber. Before long, Shaggy and Scoob had to doggy paddle to keep their head above water. Then suddenly, the water was propelling them upward. They looked up and there was no ceiling, just a long tunnel going up and up. The two friends hugged each other and gulped. Scooby and Shaggy shot out the top of the park's volcano. It was like being fired from a water cannon. They were so high up they could see everything. Zoinks! Look, Scoob, there's another monster chasing the rest of the gang, Shaggy shouted. But they didn't have time to worry about the others now, for as fast as they'd gone up, they were coming down. Monsters all over the place. Luckily, Shaggy and Scooby landed in the volcano's river. It carried them over churning waterfalls down to the lagoon at the bottom. They forgot to be scared. They were having too much fun. Like cowabunga, river doggy, Shaggy shouted happily. Ride those rapids, Scoob. Ree-hee, Scoob laughed. Shaggy and Scooby had finally come to a gentle stop in the lagoon. Man, that was one wild ride, Shaggy said. Raw ride, Scooby nodded. We better go find the other, Shaggy suddenly remembered. They looked like they could use some help. The two friends didn't realize, but at the moment, they needed help too. Close by, Fred and Daphne and Velma were hiding from the water monsters. Now there were two creatures from the deep chasing them. Those creatures sure are protective of that truck, Velma said. It must be a very important clue. Fred noticed an office door. Let's hide in here and see if we can figure out this mystery, he said. Fred said. This place doesn't look deserted. In fact, it looks like somebody works here every day. I found another clue, Velma said, holding up some blueprints. I'm beginning to get an idea what's going on here. Before Velma could explain, there was loud banging on the door. The kids jumped. Uh-oh, I think those creatures have found us, Daphne said. But it wasn't the water monsters pounding on the door. It was Shaggy and Scooby. They were in trouble. The giant octopus had found them again. It was trying to wrap them up in its slimy tentacles. Let it in, Shaggy shouted. Rope, Scooby cried. Shaggy and Scooby slammed the door before the enormous octopus could reach inside. This is no good, Velma said. That's the only door in and out. We've got to find more clues if we're going to solve the mystery. Like, not me, Shaggy whimpered. I'm staying right here where it's octopus free. I know what we can do, Fred said. He pointed to a vent in the wall. This is a vent big enough for us to crawl through. Let's go. They all began crawling into the vent. But before Velma climbed in, she spotted another clue. It was a battery charger. Once the gang had crawled for safety, Fred had another idea. Shaggy and Scooby, you take this hose. He said, try to attract the creature's attention. When you signal, we'll turn on the water full blast. Hose the monsters into that net and we'll wrap them up. Ruh-roh, Scooby shook his head from side to side. Like, no way, Fred, Shaggy said. We're not going anywhere near those fishy freaks. Would you do for a handful of Scooby snacks? Velma said, holding the treats in the air. They're nacho flavored. Shaggy and Scoob couldn't resist Scooby snacks, especially nacho ones. And they were munching away happily as they headed off to the hunt for the water monsters. They hadn't gone far when they made a lucky discovery. It was a barbecue they smelled earlier. Like, my compliments to the chef, whoever he is, Shaggy said between bites. Scooby nodded and kept on munching. Munch chomp. They were so busy eating, they didn't notice the three watery creatures had joined them. Turn on the hose! Turn on the hose! Shaggy yelled as they backed away from the angry creatures. Row, 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 row! Scooby joined in. But the hose filled with the pressure too quickly, and Scooby and Shaggy were lifted off the ground in the air. Too much pressure! Too much! Shaggy yelled. Row, 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 row! Shaggy and Scooby hung onto the wild hose with all their might. It shot back and forth and through the air like a bucking bronco. Fred, Daphne, and Velma tried to turn the water pressure down, but the valve wouldn't budge. I've got bad news, girls, Fred said. This valve is stuck. Before the monsters could get to the others, Scooby and Shaggy came down again, and as they fell, the hose wrapped around the monsters, knotting them up so they couldn't get loose. Scooby and Shaggy had saved the day, but you could have done better if you were cowboys in a rodeo, Fred said with a grin as he finally managed to turn off the hose. All the kids laughed. But then The snarling octopus returned. Row, row, Scooby yelled. He jumped into Shaggy's arm. Everyone was terrified, everyone but Velma. She calmly walked over to one of the captives and took something away from him. It was a remote control. She twisted a knob, and a giant octopus disappeared. Like, I don't get it, said Shaggy. What happened to the ugly puss? It was just a hologram, Velma explained. She pointed to the projector up on the water mountain. And these creatures are just a soda stand owner, Mr. Reed, and a couple of his cronies. I was right, Fred said. According to blueprints in the office, there's a big supply of underground water beneath the park, Velma continued. Have crooks wanted to develop this land and build a city where they could control the water. That's why they scared everybody away. We would have gotten away with it, too, if it weren't for your meddling kids and your dog, muttered Mr. Reed. It wasn't long before the park was reopened for the town to enjoy. Matt, Amanda, and Ronnie invited Scooby and the gang back for a big party. They had fun in the sun all day long, splashing in the cool water and sliding down the slides. Thanks for saving our park, Mac's dad said to the gang. As far as I'm concerned, you've all got free lifetime memberships here. Ruby-dooby-doo, sure, Scooby.
Go ahead. We can sing Woof Woof.
Woof, woof.
It's your head.
There. Did I get it?
Tell me more.